She has the greatest story of how she got started. So let me introduce you to our estate planning attorney Debbie Baker. Good morning,
Good morning. See,
attorney.
he's here. He's right here.
Oh yeah, there he is.
He heard
I
your
was,
voice. He heard your voice and said, "Oh, it's Steve-O. I need to be here."
And my Sophia has the same color cat,
Same color.
and his name is Ralph. So
Okay.
I was telling Debbie this morning how my Sophia loves cats, and she was really upset because one of her cats jumped up on her lap during the show. I said, Debbie does it all the time. It's not a big deal.
Nope. He must have heard your voice and go, "Up, must be time. Must be time."
Beautiful. Debbie, I think you've got the most amazing story of how somebody became an attorney. Can you share that with us?
Sure. I thought about becoming an attorney when I was truly younger than 39, because for those who haven't seen me, I've been practicing 39 for a lot of years, but and it didn't work out. I always had a wonderful excuse. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have whatever. But I became a person of faith in 1884. No, I don't think so. 1984. And in 2008, while I was trying to figure out, do I continue with my prior career or whatever, God told me to go to law school. And then I think the most interesting thing about that, after I started breathing again, was how easy it was. Like, not easy, like a smooth sailing, but just it was the right time, it was the right place, and nothing was going to deter me from it. And it took 32 months before I got started with taking LSATs 3 times and stuff like that. But it was all fun. It was fun. And then in law school, I started in law school in 2011, the summer of 2011. And I graduated in 2015, and it was glorious. I'd never used the word before, but I forgot I loved being in a classroom. And I wasn't there for a 40-year career because I really wasn't 39, and I wasn't, going to be a judge or whatever. So I had the best time. I had the best time, and chose this area of work because I never want to be in a courtroom. As much as people tell me what a great arguer I am, and how they missed getting to see me in a courtroom, and as much as I was told that it wasn't about getting angry in a courtroom, I said, no, I'm not doing it. So estate planning, wills, trusts, probate is a great place to just continue God's walk and be of service.
Okay, so let me ask you. So you became a believer later on in life.
Right.
And how much longer did you become an attorney after you became a believer?
Oh, that was 37 years. 30. Okay. No, 27 years. 27 years.
So God opened the door for you.
Yeah, and one and once he did, like I said, it wasn't that it was simple or without angst, but it was not. It was. That's where I was going. So once it was determined that that's where I was going, then the rest of it fell into place, regardless of the obstacles, such as my not knowing how to fill out an application, or giving too much information on an answer to a question, or things for which I got coaching. And it was.
Did the coaching help you? Now that you're since you're an attorney?
Yeah, the coaching helps a lot. It helps for those of you who haven't heard me before, I was executive coach, like a life coach, for want of a better word, asking people difficult questions and having them, make difficult choices. And it helps a lot. It helps in what I've learned about how to ask a question so somebody can hear it without it being threatening. without them feeling threatened by me. The question might be threatening, but it's not coming from me. And just help them walk through choices that they really need to make to move on with getting their life in order. So right now, this morning, I reviewed a piece of paper from a friend of mine who I saw on Saturday, and we're going to have a meeting on Thursday. And he names, for the document that people do, which is the HIPAA waiver, which allows people to talk to doctors, he named only 2 of his 4 sons. And I think he may have done that because he had named the other 2 sons in a different document. And when I speak to him, I say, I think you might want to name all 4 sons, because this is just giving them access to the doctor. This isn't letting them make decisions. And I don't know that you want to keep any of them out of that. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think he left the other 2 out intentionally so much as he wanted to be fair, which is what a lot of people run into. They want to be sure that all of their children are somehow involved, which I can get. I don't think it's always wise, but I do think on the waiver to speak to a doctor, I think it's pretty easy to include everybody. But that's that kind of thing. The attorney who did it may have never asked him. And I've learned, you and Sophia could have 6 kids and you only want 1 of them to make decisions, or 2 of them, but you're more than willing for all 6 of them to be able to speak to a physician. Not that the physician would be happy with that necessarily, but you're willing to let them talk to the physician. So it's that kind of thing where the coaching comes in. Pip, you are blocking the camera. Yep. All right. Come on.
Debbie, you and I are both believers. And I think before we really get into the show, I think we should all make sure that we pray for the people in Israel. What's going on there is just, it's so sad. And we just need to keep them in our prayers, because as rough as it's been, I think it's about to get rougher. But I know that God's hand's in this and things will work out well.
Well, I agree, and I think we need to be sure that we pray for everybody over there.
Yes.
I mean, all sides, all people. It's horrible, but yes, I agree.
Okay. So
what's the frivolous question you have now after that heavy moment? Right. What's the question, Steve?
My question is, well, you are an estate planning attorney.
Right.
So let's kind of start off with the basics. What are some of the basic steps to getting started with estate planning?
Well, I don't know that this is like necessarily on any list I have, but I think the first thing is somebody has to determine that it's time. You have to determine that it's time. For whatever reason, a lot of people determine it's time because they've lost somebody and who didn't have it in order, and they were left with a mess. But the first step for me in terms of what I talk to people about is you need to pull together everything you own, meaning it's not like putting it all on one desk, but finding all the paperwork that you have for this bank account or this bank account or this IRA or whatever, or your home or your life insurance or anything that somebody, when you pass, will have to collect and aggregate to distribute, or when you have somebody who has the right to make financial decisions for you while you're alive, that they have easy access to it. But one of the things I've come up with consistently, and I'm going to change my practice in terms of my admonition to my clients, if that's the right word, is people know that they've appointed beneficiary, and we've talked about this. If you have any liquid asset, whatever that looks like, money of any kind, in whatever amount, and you haven't named a beneficiary, then you've set your estate up for having to go to court after you pass so somebody can distribute it. But what I found consistently, and I don't think I'm guilty of this, but I might be, I have to go check, excuse me, is that people are convinced that they have appointed beneficiaries, but they don't have any idea who they are. And I've come to believe that's a big oversight, because it doesn't seem that if I go into the bank to appoint a beneficiary, that they give me a copy of that form. They keep it, but I don't necessarily have it. And I've come to believe that I should have that for the benefit of the person who's got to see that everything gets done, so that they can notify, if I've left you as a beneficiary on something and you don't know it because you don't have to, but the representative of my estate can call and say, Steve, just so you know, I'm going to get you a copy of the death certificate. You can go to so-and-so bank and that money is yours. And then you don't have to think about it because you've got it. But you need to collect your inventory for the possessions and stuff like that, the possessions and the money. And then you need to figure out, who do you want to have represent you? That's not an easy question necessarily. You may have very responsible children in terms of you trust them with your money, but you wouldn't trust them with a doctor because they're afraid of them, or vice versa. So you need to look at that. You need to look at, if you have life insurance, do you have enough? Depending upon your age, you can get more, but without it being expensive. But if you have families, I learned this early on, just a brand new attorney, was stay-at-home spouses, male or female, who that's their job. They're the homemaker. They're raising the children in terms of primary. They don't have life insurance because it doesn't occur to the working spouse that they need it. But oh my gosh, if you lose a homemaker, it's not who's gonna cook meals, or who's gonna get the kids to school, so there are countless little things that, with a good template, like a planning worksheet, you can think about. But it's pulling all that stuff together, so then when you go meet with an attorney, you're better able to have the conversation.
Debbie, I cannot even fathom somebody not having a plan. I just imagine you have so many things in your head. You have this long checklist of things you need planning for that people would not even think of. Like if they're trying to handle this themselves, you have this big checklist, and everything on there is so important. And that's why I can't even imagine someone not having a plan.
Okay, so well, yeah, but how old were you when you got your first plan?
I was 27, 28, because my brother is an attorney. But if he hadn't been an attorney, I wouldn't have done the planning then.
Okay, were you single or married at the time?
I was single.
Okay, so you were single, figuring you had nothing. So why did you need a plan? Which is the general thing with a single person of that age, except that they're wrong.
I didn't even have a will until my brother really got on me. Because, when you're young, you think nothing can hurt you. You don't think about death at all. Look at Matthew Perry yesterday, 54 years old. Did you think he thought he was going to pass away yesterday? Especially the way he did it. You never know.
You never know. So the thing is that when we're young, we're immortal.
Yes.
Okay. So when we're young, like somebody your age when you first started, you hadn't amassed anything that you would look at wealth. We've talked about this before. People hear estate and they think you have to have wealth. You didn't have a family. You had a sibling or siblings, but you didn't have a wife or children. So
Right.
that's when people begin to think about it. The challenge is, for anybody watching or listening, the challenge is if you have people in your life who have just turned 18 or young adults, they need their own plan because you, as their parent, can do nothing for them anymore. That's pretty terrifying. If you've got a kid at school
Yes.
and they're sick, the doctor should not talk to you. They should not talk to you without a document signed by your child. And if you think that you're paying for college and you call their professors and get information about them, you cannot unless that 18-year-old, if they're still 17, the teachers can talk to you. But once they pass 18, they can't without your children's consent. So, and there's no reason for anybody to know this at all until they have a brother like you had who said, you're going to do this and just sign it. And I don't care who you appoint. And because I'm not going to leave you alone about it. And you listen, as opposed to telling him to go jump in the lake and you were a big boy and who the heck did he think he was? So, so for me, part of my passion about this is giving people information that there's no reason in the world to know. You could have an apprentice in your business, you and Sophia, who thought that they should know a lot of things, but they're brand new. Why should they know them? I mean, why should they?
Right.
So for me, it's very much the same thing. The people who are not the most fun to work with, but the most interesting to work with are people who know they should be doing it and are avoiding it for some reason. The people who have no idea that they should be doing it are just wide-eyed because it's like somehow the atmosphere should have taught them that they've reached a certain stage in their life and they need these kind of things. They get the idea of life insurance for whatever reason, and I really think some of it has to do with it says life. And people think estate planning is all about dying, which it's not. Most of it's about taking care of you while you're alive. And then it's not listening to your friends and neighbors who say, yes, you need this, or no, you don't need that. I've had countless people call and tell me, I need a trust. And when we talk, I say, well, you don't need a trust. I mean, we could do one, but you don't need one if we do all these other steps. Or the friend who's appointed two sons and two sons, he has come to a point where he wants a trust because he's got grandchildren. And if his children are all way into adulthood, but he's got grandchildren. So if he wants to be sure that some part of his estate gets to his grandchildren, then he needs to do a trust so he can do that. But there's no reason for people to know these things. And for those who are listening, watching, you got the greatest things are the three greatest reasons not to are you don't own anything, which is not true. What's the second one? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's too expensive. When they don't know that.
Right.
They don't know that. It's a frame of reference, and we all have frame of references. There was a day we wouldn't have bought this car, but now we bought one that cost that much money, whatever that much money means. And then once they have that frame of reference, when somebody says the car is going to be this much money, they go, oh, that's not too bad. Or they think they're going to die as soon as they do it. And I've got 3 or 4 people out there who keep avoiding it because they're sure they're going to die as soon as they do it.
Debbie, we just got 2 texts in. It's amazing. 2 different people, but the same question. What is a revocable trust?
Okay. A revocable trust is one that you do while you're living, and you are the owner of it. You're the grantor, so you're the one who's creating it, giving it whatever assets you're giving it. And you're the beneficiary because everything remains yours as long as you live, and you're the trustee. So you can change that trust at any single time. You can dissolve it. You can modify it. You can add to it. You can do anything you want with that as long as you're living. So if you're a single person and you have a trust, which sometimes is advisable, again, if you've got people you want to have your assets, as soon as you die, it becomes irrevocable. but which means whoever you've got taking it over cannot change anything in it. But as long as you're alive and you're in charge, you can do anything you want with that trust as long as you're living. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Do you like revocable trust?
Yeah, yes, and that's what I do. There are places for irrevocable trusts where I think for tax considerations and stuff like that. But I'm not working I'm not working with people who have vast wealth meaning 10, 15, 20 million dollars. So I'm working with people who might have a couple of $1 million, but they're not in danger of estate taxes, so they don't have to protect their money for that purpose. There are income tax, there are insurance trusts that are irrevocable. There are a number of different places for them. I haven't had a call for them yet, but so I'm a big proponent of the revocable, because I would hate to think, well, let's just say you left a specific amount of money to a child, your child or a niece or nephew, it doesn't matter. And over the years, the child ran into substance abuse problems or something like that. By it being revocable, you can change it. You can modify how that child or beneficiary would get their money.
So what is the difference in a living will?
Okay. That's a confusion that most people have. A living will is about end of life decisions. A last will is about what happens after you die.
Okay.
So that's the distinction. And people will call and say, I have a living will, I don't need anything else. I said, well, help me understand here. So what do you have? And they say, well, I have something that says I don't want life support. That is a living will. But what you're asking for is what happens to your bounty, is the legal term. What happens to your stuff after you die? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. But that's
Does that help also with probate by having a revocable trust?
Yes. Your assets and your revocable, once your assets are in the trust, then the trust takes care of everything at the end, because it's owned by the trust. So you could own a home. I don't know if you and Sophia own a home, but if you owned a home and you had a trust, you could put the trust into the home. The trust becomes the remainder beneficiary. So you've passed it outside of probate. If you own a home and you don't name anybody to own that home when the second of you dies, that's a probate asset. You can't say in a will, my brother and sister-in-law get our home. Won't work. That's probate. Your brother and sister-in-law will have to go through probate to get the home you could have given them in a different way and avoided all of that.
Debbie, this show goes by so fast. Give everybody your phone number.
Okay, my phone number is 813-586-1332. 813-586-1332. I'm only licensed in Florida, but if you're out of state or you have a question for somebody out of state, I will always do my best to answer it as I know it from the Florida law, and then direct you to find somebody in your state to answer it. So yeah.
Debbie, thank you so much. Debbie's with us every month. She's with us the last Monday of each month. Thank you so much. We love you. God bless.
Thanks a lot. So long, Rebel.